That play's been in for a while now, so we're excited to call it. We had it called in the timeout, and I was like, we got to call it. We got to keep it up. So it was
going
good.
through your mind when that ball coming to you?
Well, it was kind of sunny. I lost it for a second, but yeah, it was
Wasn't the
good.
best pass for was it?
Yeah, I know he had good. He threw it well on Thursday, but he's bailed me out a few times, so I had to bail him out.
When you're coming off the field from one of your touchdowns, Vince Young is like bowing down to you. What did that feel like?
Yeah, it's great. You know, it's cool having Vince around. He was at the hotel last night. He's always encouraging us, and I can reach out to him for advice. And he's just a really good guy. He kind of talked to the team a little bit, but then left, so I didn't have time to talk to him. But I can reach out to him, and he'll give me advice, which is cool.
What is it about rivalry games for you? The great game against Oklahoma, now with Arkansas, you got one coming up next week as well. Is there something different mentality-wise, or just doing the same thing?
Yeah, just try to stick to the routine. Obviously, there's a little more built-up stuff with rivalry, but you try to play well every week, and next week's going to be a big one, so we got to get ready for it.
Okay, couple things here as we're going into this. I thought, obviously offensively, early in the game we were very efficient. We were able to create explosive plays, primarily in the pass game. I thought Arch, took his shots when they were there. I thought the receivers did a good job of catching and running with the ball. At the same time, they were creating some explosive plays their first couple drives, and I thought our defense did a really good job of defending the end zone and forcing field goals in the red area. And over time, as we were able to kind of stretch our lead, I thought the field goal at the end of the first half was really important, knowing we were going to get the ball to start the second half. Really, that was, those 10 points to end the first half and start the second half, I thought were huge. 2 turnovers in the game that we create, both of those turned into touchdowns, 14 points there. We took care of the ball offensively. So all in all, really proud of our team. It's not easy, when you get knocked down and you got to get back up off the mat and you got to continue to fight. And like as I told the team downstairs, from Monday they responded, and it was not easy for them either. But they fought back and they put forth a performance where we came out of the game healthy. We survived it defensively without Anthony. We'll be able to get him back next week. And we came out of this thing unscathed and healthy and confident, and so that's great. And so I think the key to the drill, I know I'll get asked all about it, is control what we can control. And what we control is preparing really well for an undefeated top 5 team in A&M coming in here next Friday night. And we've got to prepare really well so that we can go play our best football, because our best football will be needed next Friday night.
All right, let's start questions. Danny up front.
So, Steve, do you expect to have Anthony back next week, and how much did y'all miss him today?
I didn't hear the second part. I'm sorry.
How much do you guys miss Anthony?
Yeah, no, I do suspect we'll have him back. I'll have to look at the tape of the first couple big plays they had. I don't think it was about not having Anthony. I mean, I feel like we missed a tackle in the hole on the first run. We give up a corner route to the tight end on the start, the second series, for an explosive play. Which these guys have been creating explosive plays on everybody. And I know sometimes people don't want to believe me, but they scored a lot of points on a lot of people, and they got a talented group. But, I thought we settled down after a couple of the explosives, and then granted some stuff happened there late in the game, but, I was trying to get guys out of there. And we're on a short week, and we needed to be as healthy as we could be. We didn't have the luxury of playing a game where everybody kind of knew the outcome before the game. We had to play tonight. And so as much as quickly as I could get guys out, we did to protect them. But, hey, it's always good to have an All-American linebacker, so hopefully we get him back. But I was proud of Trey Moore and the way that he played. Obviously, with Anthony getting the targeting penalty there in the second half, we'll be down him in the first half of next week's game. So getting Anthony back will be big.
Steve, kind of piggybacking off of that, just what did you make of some of the explosive plays that the defense gave up? And offensively, you being able to push the ball downfield, how close was tonight to the way you kind of envisioned the way you'd be able to play offense this year?
Well, like I said, the first run, I feel like we fit it fine. We missed a tackle. The second pass to I think it's the tight end on the corner route, we're in 3 deep coverage, and our corner doesn't sink on the corner route. So those are simple fixes that I think we settled in and got fixed. I'm sure there's going to be other stuff on the film as we look at it of where some of the passes occurred. And again, we were playing a lot of guys kind of intentionally. I think ultimately for us offensively, it was nice to see the ball spread around. All 4 receivers had nice nights. Jack Endry's made a couple big plays. We started to find our rhythm running it when we needed to run it, and they knew we were going to run it. It's unfortunate we got the 1 holding penalty. Some would argue it wasn't, but it is what it is. But ultimately, when you can find rhythm, guys are playing confidently. We're converting third downs. We're extending drives. We're getting in the red area. We're scoring touchdowns, and that's building momentum, and that's building confidence. And confidence is a powerful thing. And it was very powerful tonight. And so, it was nice to spread the ball around, create some explosive plays, and Arch make some plays, not only with his arm, but with his legs. I don't know, is he the first guy ever to throw a touchdown, rush for a touchdown, and receive a touchdown in a game? So he continues to get better and better, which is a good sign for us.
I know your goal is not to impress the selection committee, but do you think it did because Arkansas has lost so many close games? And do you think you're looking and playing like a playoff team?
Well, I think this, again, as a coach, I don't want to say we worry, but we worry, right? And you worry about different things going into different games and what are your issues. And I was concerned about Arkansas coming into this game because they played everybody close. Last week was 23-22 LSU. Tennessee's 34-31. They have the ball going in to win the game against Ole Miss and fumble it in the red area. They have the ball, the game's over against Memphis. They fumble that ball. They lose to A&M 45-42. So we knew how dangerous this team was. And what can happen to you is you stare at the record and think, oh, they're 2 and whatever. That's not a 2-8 team. And that team's a hell of a lot better than that. And if they're probably in any of the 3 other Power 4 conferences, they're probably already bowl eligible. But they just happen to play in the SEC, and that's the life we live. So I do think we're playing good football. I do think when you look at our schedule and how competitive and the teams that we've played, it's been a tall task. But in reality, the best way we can impress anybody is going and winning next Friday night. And that's what we can control, and that's what our focus is on.
Sark, you mentioned Arch in his hands. I mean, pretty tricky. How long have you been holding on to that? And did he give you confidence making catches like that in practice?
We'd been holding on to it for a few weeks now. It just didn't arise at the right time. And Parker's got a little baseball background in there, and so it took a little time of him throwing it on the run. You don't throw on the run all the time in baseball, and that was a heck of a catch by Arch. I think like I told Parker, you owe him one, because he just bailed you out, so you got to bail him out somewhere in here too. So, but those guys are great friends, obviously, and so it's a lot of fun for them to have that connection.
Hey, Coach, you guys are coming off a really challenging week, right? The loss to Georgia. You had to address, obviously, the stuff with the job and you staying here. Just talk about the resolve of the team to be able to kind of put all that stuff aside and kind of bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I literally brought this up to them downstairs. I said, I don't know if we're a perfect team. I don't know if there is a perfect team out there. But what I do know is these guys have some really cool ingredients about them. And their resiliency, their grit, their toughness, their togetherness, their connectivity is really powerful. And as much as a lot of stuff has been surrounding this team from before the season to this week, leading up to this week, and I'm sure there's going to be more as we go into next week, they do a really incredible job of staying focused on the task at hand. And I commend them for that because they come in here every morning and they're prepared. They go to practice every day. They're working extremely hard, and I'm seeing guys getting better and better and better. Some guys are frontline starters right now. Some guys are redshirting. But I see a team that's working and trying to improve and get better, and they're able to focus. And like I said, with my stuff, I did not want to be a distraction, but I felt like it was becoming one, and so I addressed it. And I told the team before I addressed it with y'all that I was going to address it so it wouldn't feel like a distraction to them. And they didn't think, okay, Coach, that's just what they do, and that's how they go about their business. And so I think it's a credit to guys who have grown up in our program that are now our leaders that understand, hey, there's always going to be stuff swirling around this place. It just is what it is. We're the University of Texas. This brand, right, this logo means a lot to a lot of people, and it's a very polarizing brand, and people love to talk about us, and that's okay. That's a good thing. But we got to make sure that we keep our focus internal where it needs to be. And again, I commend our players for doing that, and they responded again this week, and they're going to need to do it again this coming week, and they're going to need to do it quickly because we're living on a short week.
You talked about spreading the ball around your pass catchers. It had been an up and down week for them in Georgia. They come out, all four of them, like you said, and Jack have big games. How important was it for them to have this type of bounce back game and get the ball rolling heading into the last week?
Yeah, again, proud of those guys. You know, I said this, I think, on Monday. No receiver wants to drop the ball, right? They're working hard every week. They're running routes. They get an opportunity in game, the ball get thrown to them, and they don't come down with it. Nobody feels worse about that than them, okay? But for those guys to show the resolve, to bounce back, to have another great week of practice, and to make their plays when their numbers were called tonight, I think just speaks to there's a lot of maturity in that room. I know there's new faces this season, but those guys are very mature. When you talk about DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo, Parker Livingstone, Emmett Mosley, those guys are very mature. And they handle their business. They don't try to do more than what's asked of them. They just go about their business at a really high clip. And so I'm happy for them because that's tough. You know, it's hard when you don't make some of the plays that you want to make in a big game. But they responded, and we're going to need them moving forward. And so for those guys all to show up the way they did tonight, I thought was pretty cool.
Arch continues to take significant steps just as a quarterback in the system over the last month. What's impressed you the most, and how much confidence is he playing with right now?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm probably most impressed with is his poise. You know, even going into the game, he feels different in pregame than he did 2 months ago. You know, and even in the moments tonight when things broke down a little bit, he just seems so under control as he was avoiding the rush and keeping his eyes downfield. You know, I think Arch 2 months ago was just dropping his head and running as fast as he could, you know, towards the line of scrimmage. And I thought tonight he exhibited some real poise, you know, moving in the pocket, keeping his eyes up and making some plays down the field. And, you know, I was hard on him tonight like I'm hard every game. You know, I think there was plays that I would love for him to make even more than he had. But that's the beauty of growing as a player. That's the beauty of being coachable as a player, and he's extremely coachable. He wants to be the best that he can be, and so there's more out there for him, you know, and he can be even better, but he is playing at a high level, and he's playing at a high level at the right time for us.
Sark, you mentioned Arch was the first player in program history to throw for a touchdown, catch a touchdown, and run for a touchdown. How rare is it to have a player that versatile, and as an offensive play caller, how fun is it to design stuff for a player that versatile?
It was pretty fun. You know, when he caught the touchdown, I turned around and Vince Young was high-fiving me, and he said, "Man, I wish I would have had that play." You know, when I was going, I said, "Shoot, I'd call more stuff for you if you were out there." So, you know, you try to play to guys' strengths, and he's obviously a very athletic guy, and we've used his legs plenty this year, and now the confidence in him throwing it down the field and the rapport with the receivers, we've leaned more into that aspect of it. But he gives us a lot of options, and he provides different things. The fact that I'm calling quarterback power from the 5-yard line to score a touchdown is something that we haven't had the luxury of doing here for the past few years. And, you know, he's got a lot of attributes that we can tap into, and so the versatility of his is a bonus for us.
Hey, Steve, you find out a lot about players how they act when things aren't going well. And there were shots of Arch on the sideline in Georgia, really getting after his teammates, telling them what he needed them to do. Would he have done that earlier this season? And how long does that take for that maturation to happen?
I wanted him to do that earlier in the season, truth be told. But I don't think he was ready to do it because I always felt like with Arch, and he'll be the first one to tell you, he wanted to earn the right to start picking guys up and telling them what to do. And to do that, he felt like he had to play really well. And I said, no, you've already earned that. You're the starting quarterback. We need you to do that. But I think that just speaks to who he is as a person. he wanted to earn it all, and he's definitely earned that right now. He's playing at a high level. I think the guys are obviously respective of him. Even through some tough games when he was really beat up coming out of games, the guy never missed a practice. He never missed a rep. He went in there beat up, and he continued to work. And I think he has definitely earned a lot of respect of the guys in that locker room with him.
Last one, far right.
Yeah, Coach. Kate Phillips got to start tonight, and then Jonah Williams getting more snaps. Of course, Grayson Littleton had some great plays tonight as well. How much is your confidence growing in these freshman DBs at this point?
I really like Cade. He's got a great demeanor about him. Even when it's not perfect, the ability to bounce back. And I know I talked about this on Monday in the press conference, but he's got a really good demeanor about him. He's tough. He tackles well. He's got good length. I appreciate him at the end. They called pass interference on him. He was trying to pick it. And I don't know if that ball was catchable or not for the receiver, but man, he plays like he's trying to make plays. Jonah's growing more and more in the system. Grayson's been what he's been all year, and I'm really proud of him. But again, a lot of these young players, they're developing, and there's some guys that are still in the lab that you guys don't even get a chance to see right now that are improving, that are getting better. And so, again, we try to pride ourselves on being a developmental program, but it takes character in the player to understand, hey, I might not be where I'm at, where I want to be today, but I should surely get closer to it tomorrow if I keep working. And I think that's a common theme in this team meeting room, that our guys are willing to work, and our young players came here to compete and to work, and they're trying to get better. And when their moment's called, we try to get them out there to give them some opportunities to do some of the things that they came here to do. And it may happen next week. It may happen next year. We don't know yet, but there's definitely a workman-like mentality that a lot of those young guys have.
Thanks, Coach.
Ordell, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Truth Serum. Joey the Truth Wagner with you. Thank you so much for watching the Arch Manning Postgame Press Conference, as well as the postgame presser for the Texas football head coach, Steve Sarkisian. Statistically, the best game of Arch Manning's career in a win that the Texas Longhorns needed to have to keep their slim college football playoff hopes alive. A 2-touchdown win over the Arkansas Razorbacks. And Arch Manning was fantastic from the start, finishing 18 of 30 with a career-high 389 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. Arch did even more than that. He also rushed for a touchdown, and he also caught a touchdown from Parker Livingstone. So overall, 6 Arch Manning touchdowns. And Texas will get their 8th win. The final score was 52-37. This game was relatively close at halftime, but the Longhorns ran off with it with a massive third quarter to turn a close game into a laugher. 21-3 edge in the third. Texas, they really didn't run the ball that well. They did not even cross 100 yards rushing as a team, and they did not even average 4 yards a carry. So the run game wasn't great. The defense gave up 37 points. This today was the game that Arch won. Texas is 8-3. Their slim hopes for the college football playoff remain, but a lot of it for them will hinge on what the other teams do ahead of them. If any of them fall, such as Utah or Alabama or a BYU, if they fall and slip in the polls, and most importantly, if Texas is able to get a home win next Friday night at home against rival unbeaten 11-0 Texas A&M. That's the game that'll mean everything for the Longhorns. They win, they're going to shoot up the rankings. If not, their season is over. Will Texas make the final 12? That's is what we're going to find out. But thank you for watching the Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian postgame press conference. We will be back again later tonight for the Deion Sanders postgame press conference. And we will see you tomorrow afternoon. We will be live behind the mic on the call of the Steelers and the Bears. See you then, everybody. God bless. Good night.